So here we are, Sunday morning, more like Sunday afternoon, on this rainy California day as we reflect upon UFC 296, its life lessons, and some of the things that we can learn from moving forward from this event. We're going to talk about it from a life standpoint of view, but not only that, also a point of view that sort of understands the landscape of mixed martial arts and where it's going. So in other words, it's a life lesson mixed in with mixed martial arts competitive architecture in what is going to happen in the near future. So now that Colby Covington literally performed a very lackluster performance in front of his hero, Donald Trump, everybody's going to pile on him, and they're going to say something to the effect of, well, he should have never said anything. He should have never said anything. Although the pay-per-view numbers, the buy rates that were happening after the press conference will say otherwise. They will literally tell you that Colby Covington did a great job in order to sell this pay-per-view in the way that it did, in the way that it garnered attention, not only from the president, but to casual fans alike. So, is it distasteful of Colby Covington to say what he said? It is 100% distasteful. I cannot condone it. I cannot in any way support that, nor will I stand up and say that this is okay in real life. And that's primarily the one thing that we got to understand about all this, is that fighting is not real life. It is real life in terms of the consequences in the damages that you take. It is real life in terms of the money that you make, the life-changing money that you get from the fact that you were this kid from whatever parts of the world, whether you were struggling or semi-struggling or not struggling at all, you get something out of it, whether it is monetary reward or the reward of sports glory. Those are the two options that mixed martial arts and combat sports and sports in general can really offer you in positions at the top. Well, now, the man that is on the top right now of this division is none other than Leon Edwards. The man who used the right game plan, used the right metric of system in terms of gauging his distance and his range and being able to not only stuff the takedowns, but also implement his game plan to his own perfection and everything that he had planned out in terms of self-preservation, but not only that, getting the most points within this frame of game that we are looking at in what we would call freestyle fighting, mixed martial arts, or just, for lack of a better term, really, a legalized street fight turned into a sport. Leon Edwards got the better of those exchanges. And even though there were times that Colby Covington was able to get his takedowns, was able to take Leon Edwards down on the ground using defense, on top of that, having Leon left in a position where he's holding on to both of his arms on the floor as he was trying to get up, and Leon was stuck in his full guard position on the bottom with Colby on top. Yes, Colby had those moments, and there were great moments with Leon Edwards where he attempted triangle attempts, some submissions along the way, even tried to chain an arm bar when he failed at the triangle choke. And here we are. A fight that seemed lackluster to a lot of people based on the fact that the aggression and the disrespect and the abrasive language that was provided to you by the press conference did not match up what was going on in the fight. And why is that? Because guess what? Press conferences are cheap entertainment. And therefore, you get what you pay for, which you pay for nothing. And because you pay for nothing, not that I'm saying it's a bad thing, I'm just saying this is a matter of fact. Because you're paying nothing for the press conference, you're going to get that type of, well, level of entertainment. Okay, cheap entertainment at that. As opposed to the real night of the fight where you now have to put your dukes up, you now have all the stakes that are involved and the consequences within this combative situation. And you got to ask yourself, am I going to make the wrong decision and possibly fail, or play the safe route and try to win with the safe route while also implementing my game plan the best to my ability, which, by the way, Leon Edwards just happened to be the guy that got the better of those exchanges. And by doing so, by him getting the best of those exchanges, it also did not do justice to the real justice that Leon Edwards was sort of looking for. And what do I mean by that? For one, take into consideration, when Leon Edwards got disrespected by Colby Covington in a way that he said to him, "Your father is burning an HE double-L," it elicited a response to where he threw a bottle at him in a very fast and violent way. In other words, to me, this is just my own subjective view of things. If you throw a bottle at me, I'm going to view you as a threat in the same similar fashion that a shooter and a group of infantry and a group of guerrillas would try to strong arm you with a weapon. And not only that, also fully engage at you in a very violent manner. That's how I view somebody throwing things at you. A rock can be perceived in that same similar fashion. And by the way, we know many stories around the world where a civilian picks up a rock and throws it at a soldier, only for the soldier to respond in a very violent manner in which he engages his weapon against the target or the subject at hand. So now, that is the level of aggression that I'm going to perceive at you. So when Leon Edwards threw that bottle at the press conference towards Colby Covington, you have to take into consideration that now you are violating my space in a violent way to which you really want to hurt me. Which means that how I'm going to respond is going to be no mercy. So how am I going to do that? Am I going to go and shoot you with a gun? Am I going to go and pick up a knife and stab you up? Am I going to go and get all types of... You can't do that. And Leon Edwards won't do that. And by the way, we'll get to Leon Edwards' psychology and family history while we're at it. Leon Edwards is not that kind of guy. He's not a gangster in the present tense. In other words, we don't know what his past was like, but we're going to assume that right now, in the present time, he is a world champion, and why in the world would you need to be a gangster? Of course, you can ask that about Conor McGregor and Chris Brown as well. Here comes Conor McGregor, a double champion. While becoming a double champion, not only that, Conor McGregor joins the Irish cartel and buys his way into the organization. Now, you ask yourself, why on earth would you need to do that when you're a double champion? I don't know. Ask Chris Brown why he decided to join the LA Bloods when he was already the pop star of the world. Literally, a modern Michael Jackson in the most positive sense possible, in the way that I mean it, by the way. So, why do you need to do all that? Well, only they can answer that question for you, Chris Brown and Conor McGregor. Now, as for Leon Edwards, this is what's really remarkable about this man. Leon Edwards grew up in a very tough situation. His dad was in violent altercations as a gangster and violent activities, and also very, very dodgy activities that involved, well, human trafficking, drugs, gun smuggling, and anything that you could think of where you have to be the worst human being in the world in order to engage in these actions, okay? So his dad was all that, and then his dad gets murdered, and he lives a very hard life as a result of it. But guess what? Leon Edwards rose above it. Not only did he rise above it, he doesn't use this gangster persona that Conor McGregor and any gangster type of fighter out there, maybe the likes of the Diaz brothers, would love to have a background like Leon Edwards. Not because of the glory or even the worst part of it all, the pain that he had to go through, but just the status that comes with being a son of a former gun lord, a former drug lord, and a former crime syndicate boss, the top boy. Literally, Leon Edwards' dad, and maybe even his life, could be described very similar to the Top Boy show on Netflix, where they basically depict London gangsters that live a life of crime. Just like any groups out there that live a life of crime in any TV show that you see, The Wire in Baltimore, The Sopranos in New Jersey, and everything else in that same category of context. So, again, it's really remarkable for Leon Edwards to be able to just allow himself to be a positive person as a result of it. And guess what? He also reacted in that same manner after the fight. You notice his coach was still cussing at Colby Covington in the cage as Leon Edwards is being interviewed by Joe Rogan. And what does Leon Edwards tell his coach to do? He says, nah, chill, don't do that, This is my moment. That's now 12 fights in a row. But, sorry, I don't have a very good Birmingham accent. As you know, Birmingham, England is a very unique place in and of itself. You got to have a real specialized voice and accent in order to pull off an imitation of them to any degree. But nonetheless, Leon Edwards remains a positive person, even with his life struggles and some of the worst things that life has thrown at him. And that right there is something that is remarkable that we have to take a look at. Now, the other life lesson to this is that Colby Covington is literally the Joker and the Riddler in its purest form. Even Magneto or Thanos to some degree. Now, why do I say that? Because these type of men and these types of characters that you notice in the villainous side of the comic book world, they often become villains because they were done wrong. And there's often a good lesson to that. And by the way, as men and as somebody that sort of understands that feeling of, let's say, being the bully and being bullied, I can tell you that this is the lesson that you can really learn from Colby Covington. Colby was a gap-toothed white kid growing up in Oregon, got picked on, and then just decided one day, I'm going to take up wrestling. Do you know what? This right here is literally a stereotypical, quintessential story in the world of mixed martial arts, and if not, prize fighting in total. Colby Covington all of a sudden became a stronger kid to the point where he was a top-level wrestler to where he even got invited out to Iowa. A state that, by the way, has one of the greatest wrestling pedigrees and programs in the United States. The United States in and of itself is a great wrestling nation. But Iowa State is literally the Dagestan of America. And that's the best way to really put it. Colby Covington got invited to be part of those programs, and he was good enough during his high school career to go there, and obviously he had some mishaps along the way. Why? Well, this is the psychology that we're going to delve into. Right now, Colby Covington, in the college years of his life, has become an absolute beast of a man. And sometimes, when you become that super beast of a human being, you can't handle it. You become cocky. You become arrogant. And not only that, you sometimes can become complacent. To which he did, got a DUI, got kicked out, and got sent to Oregon, only for him to cope and say something to the effect of, well, at least I could be near my family. But why would you want to leave in the first place? Well, because Iowa State is a better wrestling school. And that's just what you do. You go to a program that is best suited for your career. If you are an MIT engineer